You acknowledge that that sort of action, trying to weaponize law enforcement to corruptly go after your opponents, is more corrupt than personally enriching yourself with money. That's the end of the debate. And we could do this same song and dance with every single one of the investigations into Trump. Every one. Would you say that it's corrupt if our law enforcement officers, prosecutors, etc., engage in a double standard? The two-tier justice system? Okay. So then all I have to prove in order for you to assume it's corruption is, if I could prove one of the crimes they went after for Trump was committed by his very opponent, then you would surely say, yeah, that was corrupt. Given that you already said trying to lock up your opponent is more corrupt than financial benefit, you would have to concede that that would prove that that group was more corrupt, correct?
Ooh, what's the case this would be?
Okay. First, let's start with this. Were there illegal FISA warrants to spy on Trump's team and try to lock them up?
As far as I've heard, yes.
So you can see the debate. The Obama administration's FBI got illegal FISA warrants to spy on Trump's team when they were running and when he was president in an attempt to lock up Trump and his team. That's more corrupt by your own admission. You just conceded that it was illegal FISA warrants. You said that trying to lock up your opponents in a corrupt way is more significant than enriching yourself. And you conceded that these FISA warrants were illegal. 1, 2, 3, you're out.
I said I've heard. I don't know that they were illegal.
Well, they were. And you heard that because it's true. Will you acknowledge if they were illegal, then you lose this debate?
Yeah, so as far as I can see, there were no illegal FISA warrants directly targeting Donald Trump himself. However, the FBI did obtain flawed and improperly secured Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act warrants, so that's not illegal.
No, it's illegal. Define illegal. Outside the scope of what you're legally allowed to do, right?
Illegal would be literally trying to break the law, like breaking the law.
But it is. There are legally things that the cops could do to you, right? If the cops kick down your door without a warrant, is that illegal?
If they had a warrant and they legally obtained it.
I just said if they kick down your door without a warrant.
Yeah, without a warrant, that would be illegal.
Okay. So what they did was they lied to get a warrant. Is that illegal? They didn't follow procedure to get a warrant.
It would have to be shown that they lied.
They did. It's been that's why that's saying that it was improper. It was shown that they didn't follow proper procedure. In fact, one dude went to jail for it. His name escapes me right now. I'll think of it in a second. Granted, he got a slap on the wrist from Judge Boasberg, but he pled guilty to falsifying information to try to get a FISA warrant to go after Trump. So explain to me again how that's not more corrupt. Let's just start with this. Let's do little steps. Will you acknowledge if these were illegal, then that's more corrupt?
Not more corrupt, but it would be corrupt.
You already admitted the framework. You said trying to lock up your opponents is more corrupt than personally enriching yourself. You said that, right?
Oh, so can you show me that they were trying to lock up Trump specifically
and his team
with these FISA warrants?
What do you think they were trying to do?
They were trying to find evidence of corruption in regards to certain people.
And what were they going to do with that corruption?
More than likely see crimes and prosecute them.
Right. Try to lock them up. So lying to try to lock up, lying to spy on your opponents to try to lock them up is exactly what we're talking about here, which you acknowledge, which would be more corrupt. I mean, this is cut and dry. You've conceded all of this.
Yeah, I would need the proof of an illegal warrant.
Okay. What AI are you using right now?
I'm not using any AI. I'm just using my sources. And I don't have. So
define to me define to me the difference. What was the term that your source? What was your source that you just looked at there?
So that was the Inspector General report on the FBI FISA.
Excellent.
Abuse.
And what was the term they used? Read again what you said.
Abuse.
No. It said they used improper blah blah blah. That sentence.
Oh, let me go back. So flawed and improperly secured foreign intelligence, which would be the Steele dossier stuff, right?
Flawed and improperly secured. And it also says more than that, though, right?
Not from what I'm seeing right now, but I have to say.
I thought what you read was different, but even that. So explain to me the difference, but why it's not corrupt to use flawed and improper sources to get a warrant to spy, but it is to get illegal. Can you explain to me why one's corrupt and the other's not?
I'm saying if you're using information that you think is credible at the time to obtain warrants, it's deemed credible to get the warrant. Once it's shown to be not credible, then it wasn't illegal to be done.
No. Why is it improper then? Define what would be improper in this sense.
They didn't follow all of the procedures necessary to vet every source that they went through.
Okay, so if you're sitting in your home and the police kick in the door and they had a warrant, right? And it turns out they intentionally didn't follow the procedures they were supposed to get that warrant. Do you consider that an illegal warrant?
No.
That's not an illegal warrant.
If they created evidence, manifested evidence on their own to try to obtain the warrant, I would need to see some intent to say
you don't need
done.
You don't need you park your car, right? You have a bag of weed in your car. Police have no reason to search your car, but they do. Then they find the weed. So they make up a bullshit reason. They lie, right? They're like, oh yeah, someone told us he had weed, right? Now they improperly searched your car, which is why they had the motivation to get the warrant. Is that an illegal warrant? Is that an illegal act, an investigation that just happened to you?
No, that's not illegal.
Yes, it is. I don't know what to tell you. How could you stand to speak against police construction against black Americans? And you just said that if police with no warrant go and investigate black people or anybody for that matter, and then post hoc say, let's just make some shit up to get a warrant so that we could go and find that same shit. That's illegal.
That seems like a change in the way you frame that. So if a cop pulls up on me and I have weed in my car, they don't know I have weed, and they say, I smell weed, can we search your car? And I let them search the car. That's not illegal.
But that's not what I'm suggesting. There's all sorts of illegal searches and seizures that we see all the time, right? It doesn't result in an arrest of the police officer did it, but they used improper procedure in order to investigate you. We call that an illegal search, right?
That would be called an illegal search, I believe.
Right. The same way, if you use improper procedure in order to get a FISA warrant to spy on someone, that is an illegal search, an illegal warrant. Same concept.
So are anonymous tips illegal or corruption?
No, that's not what we're suggesting here. There were specific things that they did. They didn't follow the Woods procedures 100-something times. They did things like mislead the FISA court when they said, we talked to the primary subsource and we believe him. But what they failed to disclose to the FISA court was what the primary subsource told them was this was all hearsay bullshit.
No,
so they intentionally misled. The IG, go ahead, read your IG report. It says that. I have the Mueller report and the IG report in a book form here somewhere. That's what it says. You'll see. Further, the Durham report further says it's not even a problem of changing specific oversight laws. The culture at the FBI was so disgusting in an attempt to get Trump that just changing policy wouldn't solve it. That's what the report said. James Comey came out himself and admitted if he would have known now what he knew then about the procedures being violated, he would have never signed off because the warrants were illegal.
So in the case of you're saying they're illegal, you can't provide anything to me showing that they were illegal, but is it corruption to remove an investigator that's probing corruption?
No, it could be, it could not be. And
so
what's the relevance? It's moving on. You're I thought it was funny. I was trying to make it clear I wasn't playing semantics. You realize
I'm not trying to, but you kind of are.
No. That's what you're doing. You're like, no. The warrant was improperly obtained, but it wasn't illegal.
I'm saying they may not have followed every ounce of the procedure down to the wire, and it can be shown that they did.
It was improper and illegal. And you conceded that if an administration was attempting to lock up their opponent using corruption and illegal methods, that's worse than personally enriching yourself. We have definitive proof that that's what happened under the Obama administration. By the way, let's move to the end. And they did it over and over and over and over against Trump in multiple ways, drumming up fake bullshit, trying to lock him up, trying to bankrupt him to keep him from being able to successfully run against them. That's what they did over and over. It's just the FISA warrant's the easiest way to prove it, and you've conceded it. So the debate's over, but I'm happy to keep humoring you on it.
I don't see where the debate's over, but what I do see is like, in what cases was anything like, what evidence do you reject in regards to Trump's cases?
Well, on the FISA warrant case? You want me to start
That's
there?
not evidence. No, I'm meaning evidence
You want
that was brought up in the case.
You want me to cite the evidence against Trump's team for the FISA warrants that I reject?
Yes.
Okay. The entire Steele dossier was based on hearsay that the primary subsource admitted was a joke and couldn't believe that it was being used. That information was hidden from the FISA court. Let's start with that.
So as far as I understand, the Steele dossier wasn't used to gain the FISA warrants.
That's not true. In fact, if that was the case, the IG that you just read that said that it was obtained improperly, what are they referencing then?
Basically, the procedures that were used to obtain the warrants to begin with. If you look at the Jack Smith case, they were using information outside of the Steele dossier.
Jack Smith has nothing to do with Jack Smith was appointed in like 2022 to look into Trump. The Steele dossier is 2016 Russiagate investigation. Two complete different investigations. You just don't know what you're talking about on this. Yes, the Steele dossier was heavily used in obtaining a FISA warrant.
So, for 3 renewal applications, not in obtaining the warrant initially.
The Department of Justice admits in 2022, according to a Department of Justice filing, the government acknowledges it did not have probable cause for a FISA application for the 2 renewals. In addition, the Horowitz report, the IG report, detailed 17 errors and omissions, said that the FBI's handling was seriously flawed. The Durham report said the overall investigation was flawed. So when they say that we acknowledge we didn't have probable cause, that means it was illegal. If they investigate your house without probable cause, that investigation was illegal. That's what it means to do something without probable cause. That's an admission from the DOJ's own mouth. End of story. You acknowledge that illegally investigating your opponent to try to lock them up is more serious. That's exactly what we see happen. Now, I'm happy to move on to Jack Smith or Fannie Willis or Letitia James or the E. Jean Carroll case. Happy to do any of them because they all came in rapid succession, or the keeping Trump off the ballot in Colorado, which the court ruled in a 9-0, had to be rejected. Can you imagine that? Imagine if Trump and Republicans tried to keep Kamala Harris in a conservative or a purple state off the ballot and the court ruled 9-0 against it. What would you be saying? What authoritarianism, trying to keep your opponent off the ballot? Yeah, that's what Democrats did.
Well, A, it didn't keep them off the ballot.
They
B,
tried.
It got indictments. C,
it didn't.
Improper versus illegal are very strong distinctions.
No, explain the difference between an improper seizure and an illegal seizure.
I'm saying if you don't follow every single procedure down the level, you can say that it was improperly done. They cut corners somewhere, whatever the case may be.
Then it's illegal.
You can't prove.
If you cut corners and don't,
improper.
That's not true. If you cut corners and don't follow procedure to get and warrant, that warrant is
it was deemed invalid after it was over and done with.
It's an illegal warrant. No. Yes.
It was not an illegal warrant, or else it never would have been issued.
Okay, so just to be clear, every warrant that's ever been issued is legal.
No,
the fact that it was issued
and it would be deemed illegal.
What's that?
I'm saying they're still currently they aren't classified as illegal.
No, it is by definition. There are things that the government could legally do to you. For example, allegedly you have rights under the Constitution, right? But those rights could be pierced. You have a right to freedom of association, correct?
Correct.
Okay, but if you go to prison, do you have a right to freedom of association?
No.
Right, because you've lost that right because the government cleared some sort of metric to prove your guilt, which means that right could be suspended in various ways, right?
One more time on that.
The government has cleared a metric in various ways, finding you guilty of a crime, etc., through a legal system. That means that they're able to restrict that right in certain ways.
Correct.
Okay, if the government doesn't follow procedure and breaks procedure to violate your rights, it is illegal.
Yeah, and you're not showing me where this happened.
Yes, I'm showing you the fact that they're acknowledging that they did not have probable cause for the FISA warrants shows that they violated the privacy of the Trump team, which is illegal. They did not have legal warrants. The warrants were deemed improbable, which means that it was illegal. And I don't understand, like, I don't know what to say other than, like, it is quite evident that they fucked Trump. By the way,
what was seeing? There was lack sufficient probable cause for 2 out of 4.
Correct.
So there were still 2. Was there a problem with the 2, and did they get convictions based on the 2?
According to Durham, he said there was a problem with the 2. But the point is, the other 2 were blatantly a violation of probable cause, which happened to be the 2 that were issued while Trump was president. That's the whole point. They saw their man and they wanted their crime. The Obama administration was trying to help out Hillary. By the way, why, you'll admit, can you show me any time in history that a president or a presidential candidate had the FBI using FISA warrants to spy on them?
I don't have any precedent. That's not something
you would acknowledge that that's a huge deal, right? On its own.
Again, if there were actual crimes, and were there actual crimes?
Well, wait. You would acknowledge that's a huge deal, though, right? You'd just say there's certain crimes that would justify it, right?
I would say there would be crimes that justify it.
But it's still a big deal to have one administration using the FBI to spy on their opponent, right?
If they were doing that without any probable cause whatsoever, yeah, I'd agree.
What was the alleged crime that they were looking into?
Foreign intelligence surveillance.
You don't know what Russiagate was about? What was the alleged crime they were looking into?
Well, it was supposedly collusion.
Collusion with?
A foreign government.
Specifically?
Russia.
Okay. So the argument was that Trump's team worked with Russian teams to get dirt on their opponent and shit like that, right?
Well, that's essentially... No, that's not necessarily the case. So
okay, so then what were they looking at if that wasn't the case?
So was that Russian interference in the elections, some cooperation between individuals within Trump's administration?
What does that mean? What does cooperation mean?
So, like in the instance that Carter Page literally got caught up in criminal conspiracy.
What was his criminal conspiracy he was caught up in?
So let me get this. I don't know this off the top of my head.
He was alleged to have been conspiring in some sort of quid pro quo with Russians to help win the election. They were going to give him ammunition to go after Hillary, and then once Trump got into office, he was going to give favorable deals to Russia. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, that does sound familiar.
Okay, so then the key part was that Russia's giving them ammunition to try to win the election and go after Hillary, correct?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
That would be an outcome if there was actual convictions or any proof found.
But that's the allegation. That's why
benefit.
You wouldn't investigate someone because they're like, well, they like Russian TV shows. You'd be like, what? That's not an investigation. The claim that was serious was Trump's team is colluding with Russia to try to get Russia's help to win the election, to try to get dirt on Hillary. And right. Now, did Trump's team collude with Russians to get dirt on Hillary?
There was no proof of collusion, but
did Hillary's team collude with Russians to get dirt on Trump?
Not that I know of.
Yes! Who was the primary subsource for the Steele dossier they paid for?
Republicans.
Igor Dushenko, a Russian, not Republicans. No Republicans were involved whatsoever with the funding of the Steele dossier. None. Igor Dushenko was the primary subsource. That's not true. Igor Dushenko was the primary subsource who at one point was being investigated in the United States for being a Russian spy. So Hillary's team went to someone that the FBI at one point suspected as a Russian spy who was connected to Russian officials and got misinformation from him that they then fed to the FBI, accusing Trump's team of reaching out to Russians to get information against Hillary. Hillary's team did the exact thing that they were accusing Trump's team of doing, except they actually did it, unlike Trump's team. And Obama's FBI decided, instead of investigating Hillary's team, we're going to investigate Trump. Now, it doesn't get more corrupt than that.
So what I'm seeing, a website with GOP ties funded research into the Trump's dossier. The GOP started the Trump dossier.
That's
the
not
Steele
true.
Dossier.
The GOP was John McCain and some, I don't know if it was McCain specifically. There were Republicans that had
GPS.
reached out and were doing campaign research against Trump and using Fusion GPS. But Christopher Steele was not hired until the Republican primary was over and did not start compiling his dossier until the Republicans had stopped funding it. So the dossier itself was never funded by any Republicans, nor would it matter if it was. What's the difference? So what? A bunch of corrupt assholes were trying to use the FBI to stop their opponent from winning, whether it be Republicans in a primary or Democrats in a general. But it wasn't, just as a point of note, it wasn't Republicans that funded it. So again, explain to me if it was...
information that I have, can you show me where it was Hillary and everyone else working with the Russians to bolster the Steele dossier, even though Steele wasn't connected to the Russians?
Yes, the primary subsource was Igor Dushenko, who was Russian. You want proof of that?
No, I can look it up.
Okay. And look up if he was being investigated by the FBI at one point for being a Russian spy as well while you're at it.
Russian government was allegedly Olga Galkina.
Who was the primary subsource of the Steele dossier?
Igor Dushenko.
Where was he born?
I'm going to say Russia.
Was he ever investigated by the FBI as being a potential Russian spy?
That I don't know.
He was. So Hillary's team was intentionally reaching out to someone that they knew had been suspected by the FBI as being a Russian spy, who was Russian, who they were parroting, claiming that he talked to sources in the Russian government, right? So the only side that actually was colluding with Russians was Hillary's team. And yet, for the first time that we know of in history, FISA warrants were used to allow the FBI to spy on a presidential campaign because it was so serious that they may be working with Russians. And the proof they used to do that was Hillary's team's information that they got from working with a Russian. How do you explain that?
So from what I'm seeing, Dushenko was an uncommonly valuable FBI informant.
You mean like Carter Page that was lied about? Dushenko was investigated as a Russian spy. They dropped the investigation because they falsely thought that he left the United States, but he didn't. But he was never exonerated. And the information on Dushenko that was out at the time that the communications between Hillary's team and him occurred was that he was a potential Russian spy. There was an investigation by the FBI into Dushenko that was never exonerated him, that never closed. Well, they closed it, but not because they were like, oh, never mind, he's not a Russian spy. They just thought he left. Nonetheless, even if we accept that, he was still Russian, and the entire value of him was supposedly his connections to the Russian government. That's why it was valuable that he was giving these details, which we now know were false, was misinformation.
I don't know that to be the case.
Okay, if it wasn't misinformation, who was arrested based on the charges in the Steele dossier on the Trump team for colluding with Russians?
Again, it wasn't the Steele dossier that was used to gain the convictions. That was what was used to renew FISA warrants.
Right. You're right about this. Yes, the Steele dossier didn't get convictions. The Steele dossier was the excuse used to get the tools to spy on Trump's team, which they then would use to get all sorts of information to go after them. The convictions were not, the convictions had nothing to do with illegally colluding with Russians in the 2016 elections. The convictions were things like, well, you misstated things to the FBI. What had happened was, and I was calling this out at the time, the FBI under Obama wanted Hillary to win, so they used the full force of the FBI to illegally spy on their opponents, hoping they could find examples of any crimes. And when they basically couldn't, they just got them in tongue twisters. They sit there and grilled them and said, oh, you said something that's a slight misspeak. We're charging you for that. That's it. That's what happened. Abject corruption. They accused Trump of exactly what Hillary's team was doing. Colluding with Russians to get misinformation to affect the election. That's exactly what Hillary's team did. You acknowledge that that sort of action, trying to weaponize law enforcement to corruptly go after your opponents, is more corrupt than personally enriching yourself with money. That's the end of the debate. And we could do this same song and dance with every single one of the investigations into Trump. Every one.
So is collusion a crime?
No.
So if they found collusion, which is essentially what they were trying to find out, would that have locked Trump up and made it that he couldn't run?
There are certain collusion itself's not a crime. There are certain things that could be done in the process of collusion that would be a crime. The FBI is not in the business of investigating people for things that aren't crimes. The reason they were doing the investigation was an attempt to find criminal activity. You agree with that, right?
I don't see that there was a criminal activity.
There wasn't. That's right. The FBI used misinformation that was paid for by Hillary's team, financed or obtained through a suspected at one point Russian spy, as an excuse to investigate Trump and his team. Then they were looking for any crimes possible that they could charge them with. That's exactly what happened. My point that I'm making here is merely they weren't. The only reason the FBI would start an investigation is suspected criminal activity. For example, the FBI is not going to investigate Trump because they think he's a poor dresser. They're not going to investigate him because they think he has a foul mouth. If they're investigating, it's a crime, right? You agree with that?
If they investigate it, I don't think it's a crime.
No, they are investigating potential crimes.
Right.
Yes, so that's the point. Hillary's team used misinformation sourced by a Russian to get the FBI to investigate Trump's team under the allegation that him and his team was criminally colluding with Russians, which is what Hillary's team was doing. And it turned out that investigation found that no, Trump's team was not criminally colluding with Russians.
Right, because there wasn't. Okay, so you can look and see that there was no exoneration. They removed Mueller. There was a limited scope. There were people removed from the investigation. Yet they still managed to get information. Like Paul Manafort got convicted and was eventually pardoned.
What did Manafort get convicted for? You do realize you're out of your depth here, right? You do realize.
I mean, I didn't come to talk about this in particular.
But when you conceded that this sort of
I'm going to answer you. Can I answer you?
Yeah.
So Manafort was convicted of extensive financial fraud and corruption stemming from lucrative work as a political consultant for a pro-Russia political party and politicians in Ukraine.
What year was that supposed activity occurring?
2016.
No, that's not true. 2013. Or maybe 2012. 2013. He was working with Poroshenko. Right, Yanukovych, who was then the president of Ukraine. That president was alleged to have Russian ties, right? So Manafort was working, and he failed to register as a foreign lobbyist, which is one of the charges, FARA violations. Now, that's laughable in its own because there are thousands of violations of FARA that occur every year from lawyers and politicians and all sorts of people, almost never charged. But they decided to go after Paul Manafort. What group was... There were two law firms or two groups that Manafort was working for in 2013 where he was illegally lobbying for Yanukovych. Do you know who those two law firms were? I'll give you the first one, Mercury LLC. That's a Republican sort of strategist firm. Do you know who the second law firm was or the second group was?
Go ahead and enlighten me.
The Podesta Group. Does that name sound familiar to you?
Yeah, John Podesta sounds familiar.
And what was John Podesta's title in 2016?
I don't recall.
He's a campaign manager for Hillary Clinton, right?
Right.
And what was Paul Manafort's title in 2016? He's a campaign manager for Donald Trump.
Okay.
In other words, the big revelation that came out of this was that Paul Manafort worked with John Podesta's group to illegally lobby in 2013. Was Podesta or anyone at the Podesta group charged? Even though they committed the same crime? Were they charged? No, they were allowed to retroactively file paperwork. Same position, campaign manager. It's Trump. One gets to refile paperwork, the other gets charged. Now, let me ask you another question. Who do you think they were lobbying to? They were lobbying for Yanukovych, but that means they're talking to entities in the United States. Who was in office that Podesta would have had connections to in 2013?
More than likely Clinton.
Hillary Clinton. So once more, we have another example of this charge stemming from the shit that Hillary was doing and her team, but they charged Trump's team. They're colluding with Russians, so let's investigate Trump for colluding with Russians. Hillary's most likely the one being lobbied by the Podesta Group and by Paul Manafort to help Ukrainians, and so they charge Trump's campaign manager and allow Hillary's off the hook. You see what I'm talking about? This, by the way, I reiterate, this is one example. The truth is, if we could circle it back to the theme of this entire debate, is this: Washington is a big corrupt cesspool. Only a sycophant would say that Trump doesn't have forms of corruption himself. But I am actually shocked, because I would assume that anyone that's a billionaire in today's day and world probably has committed some sort of crimes that they're covering up, some sort of tax evasion, shady shit. The fact that they've investigated this man for 8.5 years, and the best they've been able to come up with is like, we don't like some of his crypto trades and shit like that, is laughable. Meanwhile, even though Trump is flawed, and I applaud you or anyone else for wanting to look into it, the vast scale of the fraud, the nepotism, the corruption, the waste, the money being spent is surreal in Washington. The way that they weaponize all of their tools, both in legal but shady and illegal ways, such as FISA warrants, utilizing the FBI, utilizing lawfare, not just against Trump, but from anyone that's seen as an outsider, is absolutely disgusting and is corruption of a magnitude that's barely fathomable. And so, no, I reject your premise that Trump is the most corrupt. These institutions as a whole are laughably more corrupt. And just looking at one particular thing, which you conceded, that attempts to lock up your opponent are more corrupt than personally enriching yourself if they are corrupt, I don't see how you could get out of it. This is just FISA. I'm happy to go through the Trump mortgage claims if you want. Or the Alvin Bragg case if you want.
We can stay on a similar claim, like when we're talking about wanting to lock up opponents. So same as you were saying about Fani Willis.
Okay.
But in the case of Trump, was he not running saying lock up Hillary Clinton?
Well, there's no problem in saying, hey, I think my opponent should be locked up. The question is,
Right.
did he take
proof?
actions to do it?
I believe he did.
Name it.
Literally investigation after investigation.
Into Hillary?
the Clintons.
Trump investigated Hillary? Show me.
Absolutely.
Show me. I thought that James Comey was investigating Hillary and the FBI. You want to go into that investigation as well? I'm happy to do it.
So let's see. There was Trump's investigations into Hillary Clinton primary focus on the use of private email server, Hillary's emails, government communications, unproven allegations that her campaign orchestrated the investigation into his Russia ties. Neither investigation resulted in criminal charges against her. There was a probe during his 2016 campaign, but that was Comey. The investigated concluded that Clinton was extremely careless, but nothing happened. So then Trump tried to reignite that in the 11th Circuit, and that didn't work out for him either because he just didn't have any standing to bring up these charges.
Huber and Durham did overarching investigations into the Hillary investigation, which was called the mid-year exam, and into Crossfire Hurricane, which was the Trump investigation. Everything that we just talked about, while the FBI is doing all this corrupt shit and investigating Trump, they're also having an investigation into Hillary. Now, with Trump, they went after everyone as hard as possible, charged them with little crimes. With Hillary, they gave everyone immunity, even when they were blatantly lying to investigators. So we have key figures in these investigations, such as, why can't I think of his name right now? I could see his face. Peter Strzok, who was saying he could smell Trump supporters. They need an insurance policy to make sure that Trump doesn't win. He's a key figure that's interviewing people. I think he's the one who interviewed Hillary. He's the one who interviewed Mike Flynn and all these people. And the investigations couldn't have been 180 degrees more opposite. On one hand, they're going as hard as possible against Trump and everyone connected to him. On the other hand, they're going as easy as possible. Now, some of this still falls within the framework of being illegal because, unfortunately, there's so much prosecutorial discretion given to the FBI. They can basically fucking investigate anyone they want and not investigate anyone they want. So it still doesn't mean that it's not corrupt. So what we see is Trump's team demanded investigations into the investigation, but it didn't result in any criminal charges or anything like that against Hillary. Meanwhile, the people that screamed Trump said lock him up cheered for the people that actually did do the investigations that charged Trump. Litanies of them all at the same time, all designed for one purpose, for political advantageousness to stop their primary opponent from being able to run for office. That's what happened. So at the same time, if you want to talk about it, the FBI investigation into Hillary, not the Trump investigation, the FBI investigation into Hillary, what we see there is there were all sorts of shady shit, including serious allegations that the Attorney General Loretta Lynch, who, by the way, refused to officially recuse herself, basically told James Comey and the FBI, even if you recommend charges, I'm not going to do it. She met with Hillary Clinton's husband, Bill Clinton, on a tarmac, that was only reported because a local reporter happened to accidentally see it, which is incredibly shady. Your DOJ is investigating Hillary Clinton and you're meeting with her husband in secret, right? Then they had to change the language in James Comey's official statement on this because the language he used that she was, what was the official term he used? Like reckless, careless, whatever, actually is the language in the criminal file. And what we see, I could go all day on this. What we see is they tried to investigate Trump over and over again for mishandling classified information and obstruction of justice. 100% proven that Hillary's team destroyed subpoenaed emails, something Trump's team never did. They were
That's not my understanding. It was willful retention. So had he just given back the documents, there would have been no case into Trump. But for some reason, he chose not to and showed those documents to individuals with proof of that.
Well, he didn't. There's no proof that he did. There's audio that
he's
said,
caught on tape.
Let me finish. Yeah. There's audio that he said, look at this, but not that they read it or showed it or that what he was holding was classified. If we compare
he
that
literally said, I'm not supposed to show this to
right,
anyone. It's classified. I could have unclassified it.
I'm not supposed to show you this. It's classified. I could unclassify it, but I didn't. Did I just show you classified material?
Do you have classified material?
No.
Would that give me any reason to believe you had classified material?
We don't have evidence. We don't have evidence that what Trump showed them was classified, nor did they get a good look at it. Unlike with Joe Biden, we know that he gave his ghostwriter classified material. We know it. He said it. We have the tapes. They tried to delete the tapes that showed it. The ghostwriter or the writer, biographer, deleted the tapes where Joe Biden's talking about it. So again, apples to apples comparison, Biden did worse. But what I'm talking about is
what I'm saying is the willful retention, not just the showing of classified documents.
It's not just willful retention would include this. Did they eventually get all of the stuff that Trump was retaining back?
I don't know if they got it all. All I know is he was moving it as they were asking for it. He refused to give it back. If he was moving it
and refused to give it back and then burned it all, would that be worse than what he did?
I say it's just bad because he didn't return them when he was supposed to.
I'm asking you a question. If he, A, said, I'm going to keep this, move some boxes, or B, said, I'm going to keep this, put those boxes in the incinerator, which is worse?
Which is what I think both are equally bad.
That is not true, because one is someone who's having a legal dispute that feels he has the right to the documents, but eventually would give them back under court order. The other is someone who intentionally destroyed documents that he knew the government was seeking to obtain. That one's worse.
And I'm saying that Trump destroyed classified documents.
He did not.
That's
there is no evidence.
Part of the case.
There is no evidence that Trump destroyed classified documents. However, we absolutely have proof that Hillary's team deleted thousands of subpoenaed emails. Absolutely. Were there any charges?
Quick time check for both of you. We've officially just crossed the 2-hour mark, so I just want to check in, see where both of you guys are at. If you want to keep going open floor,
we go like another 20 minutes if you're cool with that, and then we get to audience questions. Or something. Is that cool? Hillary's team deleted subpoenaed evidence. You're aware of that, right? Like with a cloth, a bleach bit, remember?
That's what I'm hearing, yeah.
Okay, how many people were charged for that?
Multiple people were charged, to my understanding. No one was convicted.
Give me one person that was charged for deleting Hillary's emails. Go ahead. You're mistaken. No one was charged.
Well, fair enough if nobody was charged.
The guy that was the tech guy, his name was Paul Combetto. This is the official story. You ready? He was well aware that this material was subpoenaed. So he has a meeting with Cheryl Mills, who's Hillary's like top lieutenant, her attorney, right? He testifies to the FBI. He has no memory of what that meeting was about. 2 days later, he's driving to work, and you'll acknowledge this, some little tech guy. Now, all of a sudden, he's the guy responsible for giving subpoenaed material over. It's probably a big deal in this dude's life, right? His career.
Could be.
Okay. He's driving to work. He's like, I gotta get to work and get this subpoenaed material to Congress. And he claims that he had, you ready for this? An oh shit moment. He says, oh shit. I forgot 6 months ago, Cheryl Mills told me to delete those emails. So now he knows that it's illegal to delete them. He knows that they've been subpoenaed by Congress, but he still deletes them. So the FBI listens to him and goes, okay, and what did you talk to Cheryl Mills about 2 days before you deleted them? He says, I don't remember. And the FBI says, okay, good enough for us, immunity. So no one's charged. No one's charged in Hillary's team with deleting, willfully retaining, and then deleting classified material that was never reobtained, or subpoenaed material that was never Can you explain that double standard?
I mean, I would love to be able to explain if that was the actual case of the narrative, because as far as I can see, it was never any intentional violation of any subpoena.
So
this was never proven.
So wait, you think that Paul Gambetta didn't know the material he was deleting was subpoenaed?
As far as they're showing in any court documents, no. They're
okay, if I can prove that, would you then acknowledge this is a grotesque double standard?
I'd appreciate it.
I'm asking. That's not an answer.
It wouldn't be a double standard. It would be the same standard.
No, it wouldn't be the same standard if they investigated Trump and charged him and his team for moving boxes, but they intentionally allowed the guy on Hillary's team that deleted subpoenaed evidence off the hook without any charge. That's a double standard.
Sure, that would be a double standard.
All right. Now, first off, I don't know what I'm going to find when I look this up, but it defines credulity that Paul Gambetta, who you admitted this would have been a big deal, didn't know that this material was submitted. Why would he was subpoenaed? Why would he all of a sudden have an oh shit moment thinking about this material if it wasn't?
If it was already on the docket to be deleted, or they were just deleted for whatever reason, I can't say. Then if he didn't know and it didn't intentionally remove documents that were being requested, was he given a list of what was requested in documents
as
he was deleting things?
Him and the others at Platte River Networks were given instructions in 2014 and early 2015 to preserve all materials. So he knew, the company he knew was made aware that these materials were subpoenaed and that they had a preservation order and were supposed to start complying and turning them over. Despite knowing that preservation order existed, he deleted these emails.
So I'm wondering what this oh shit moment is that you're talking about.
So what his excuse is this, right? He knows that this shit's subpoenaed. Like, let's say you're my boss, right? And I'm working with you. Like, do you stream regularly?
Every Wednesday.
Okay. So like, you're like, hey, Rob, can you do me a favor, man? Can I pay you like $50 a month? And all I want you to do is just go watch my live streams and then just put them up as non-live videos and title them and put a thumbnail. Like people do, like people have editors that do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's say I do that for you for a year. And then at the end of the year, you say, Rob, can you go back and delete all those videos? Okay. But I forget to do it. I say, okay, sure. And you still pay me, but I forget to do that. And then all of a sudden, 6 months later, you're like, oh, Rob, listen, don't delete anything. I'm being investigated by the FBI. So make sure you preserve everything. I don't want to get into shit. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then 3 days later, I'm putting up a new thumbnail for a new video. And I go, oh, fuck. 6 months ago, Kai told me to delete those videos. So even though 2 days ago he told me not to delete them, I'm going to abide by his orders from 6 months ago and delete them. That's Paul Gambetta's official story.
And so what documents specifically were deleted that were important to the case that, you know?
Well, that's interesting. We don't know because they've been deleted and not recovered.
They would know what they were looking for, and they would know what they were looking for wasn't there.
Yeah, what Congress was looking for was classified material, government business material. Hillary's claim was, you ready for this? It was all just emails about yoga and stuff. But Hillary's team doesn't get to decide. See, that's the willful retention part. They don't get to decide what's important and what's not. That's why the preservation order and the subpoena. It's up for this case, the body that subpoenaed, in this case Congress, to decide what's important or not. If the FBI says, Rob, keep all of your emails because we're investigating you, I don't get to go through my emails and say, I don't think these 10,000 are important, so I'll delete them. The FBI would say, Rob, you don't get to make that decision. That's why we told you to preserve all of the emails. That's what happened.
You're telling me that there's proof that this individual was ordered to delete X emails when he acted alone. There's no emails or calls or directives showing that he was ordered to wipe the server or anything after the subpoena arrived. And he admitted to the FBI that he acted on his own initiative to fulfill the original December order.
That's not what I'm saying, but I will say that circumstantially it makes the most sense that a low-level dude didn't risk knowingly committing a felony just because. He was probably ordered to do it. But I can't prove that. You want to know why I can't prove that? Because the FBI decided not to investigate him and instead give him immunity. So all's I am saying that I 100%.
Why did they give him immunity?
Let me finish. All's I know that I can prove with 100% certainty is the FBI damn well knew that they intentionally deleted subpoenaed evidence and charged no one. Let's say that your argument's correct, that he acted all alone. Okay, why wasn't he charged?
Because that's why I was asking, what was he given immunity for? He wasn't charged because he was given immunity. If he wasn't charged post-given immunity, then that's because he gave them the information that they were looking for.
No, they didn't.
Because if he violated the immunity clause, they would convict him.
No, they didn't. Well, in a way, you're right. What their claim was, well, we thought he would give us bigger fish, so we gave him immunity, but then he didn't give us bigger fish. But he had immunity.
There weren't any bigger fish. If there were bigger fish,
how would we know?
Fish.
Okay, let's say this.
We have to prove a negative?
No, let's operate under the assumption for a minute Hillary Clinton personally told him to delete it, right? Right?
If that's, yeah, sure.
Under the hypothetical. They bring him in and they're like, they got the smoky room, good cop, bad cop, the light. And one's like, you son of a bitch. Did you tell your wife goodbye? You're not going to see the fucking daylight for 20 years. And the other one's like, no, settle down. We got a way out of this for you, right? You've seen this in fucking every cop drama ever, right? They get the low-level drug dealer. You going to fucking rat out Pablo Escobar? Are you going to do it? Or are you going to go to jail for 20 years? Right? That's the way it does. That's classic police work. Turn the screws on the low-level guy, right? So here's what they did in this case. We're assuming that Hillary, for the hypothetical, Hillary personally told him to do it. So he's shitting bricks. Oh, fuck. Man, am I going to turn state's evidence? And they're like, all right, motherfucker, here it goes. Sign this paper. You get total immunity. What? Yeah, go ahead, sign it. Okay. All right, now that you have total immunity, who told you to do it? No one. I did it myself. Good enough for us. Thanks for cooperating. Does that make sense to you? Meanwhile, with Trump's team, they're fucking admitting, like with Mike Flynn, Comey admitted, we talked to him in a way we would never do anyone else. We pretended we were his buddy. We got him there. We got him in one little slip up. We're claiming he's a lie. Now we're throwing the book at him and saying, will you turn the screws? Will you go after Trump? Every Democrat knows this because every time Carter Page was being looked at or George Papadopoulos or Roger Stone or Michael Flynn, every single time the news lit up, ooh, maybe he'll flip. Now that he's being charged, maybe he'll flip. But for some reason, they did the opposite with Hillary's team. They gave everyone immunity first and then said, okay, do you have anything to tell us? And they were all like, no. And they were like, okay, that's good enough for us. Why the discrepancy in how they treated those two situations? Why do you think? Could it be because the investigators leading it said they wanted an insurance policy to stop Donald Trump? That they could smell Trump supporters? That he was so bad? And do you think that had anything to do with it?
I mean, this can't be substantiated, but I want to say, just real quick, in the case of Michael Flynn, let's say they gave him immunity.
Okay.
Let's just say they gave him immunity.
Uh-huh.
And he, does something like makes false statements. What happens to his immunity?
He would lose it.
Right. So apparently the individual that wiped the server didn't give any false statements and cooperated.
Did they investigate the statements? Did they investigate his communications with Cheryl Mills? Did they investigate his calls? Did they investigate his emails? Did they investigate his text messages? Or did they just take his word for it?
I don't believe they just took his word for it.
Yes, they did.
You can show me that they just took it. Show me where they just took his word for it.
Yeah, so I could show you. Did they subpoena his cell phone? His emails? They've all said no, they didn't do any of these things.
They looked for emails, found no emails, phone calls, or directives.
The point is they took the guy's word for it. They didn't investigate Cheryl Mills. They were like, literally, can you imagine this? Nada, the guy that was charged for moving boxes in Trump. Nada, 2 days before you moved the boxes, you had a meeting with Trump. Witnesses say that you were in there for an hour. What did you talk about? I don't remember. Okay, here's immunity. Good to go. No, they said, fuck you. We're charging you, motherfucker. That's what they did. By the way, why even give this dude immunity? They knew they had him dead to rights. He was literally the guy that was in Platte River. There were like 3 people at Platte River. All they had to do was investigate a little and they'd find out, oh, this was the dude. He went into this computer. The shit was deleted at this time. We have him on camera doing this shit, right? So it's clear that they were intentionally uncurious. Let's give everyone immunity and see what they say. Oh, they said there was nothing here. Ah, rats. With Trump's team, it's let's set people up. Let's set up stings and investigations. And we couldn't find anything serious, but we'll still say that they misled investigators. Completely different. Point is, it is overwhelmingly, I know we don't have a lot of time.
Flynn pled guilty. What are you talking about?
Because they went after
Flynn pled guilty.
Because they went after his son and said that they were going to charge his son for various things. So he pled guilty.
So
Just to be
was
clear.
his son guilty of anything?
No. But
Then why would he care?
Because the FBI was clearly didn't give a shit. The process is the punishment. Flynn's life was ruined by just being investigated. So was George Papadopoulos. So was Carter Page. So was Roger Stone. They bankrupted these motherfuckers. That's what was going on. And so father was like, yeah, I don't want this to happen to my son. What's the evidence that Flynn was guilty?
Well, there was intercepted calls, false statements.
Okay, what was the false statement?
The false statement was discussing sanctions. FBI agencies recorded his phone and proving that the statements were false.
Okay.
Where he denied discussing sanctions.
What did he... Okay. So the big deal was, let's just be clear, the reason... Because they have to be investigating for an underlying crime, right? In order to get false statements.
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. So this was the big evil thing that Flynn did. Kislyak, that was his Russian counterpart, is Flynn's coming into office. Obama's pissed because his side lost the election. So they're floundering and they're throwing out this Russia bullshit because Obama was playing right along with Hillary's team that Russia, Russia, Russia. That's what they were doing, right? So he sanctions Russia and a bunch of Russian oligarchs. Flynn says to Kislyak, don't sanction America back. Instead, when I'm in there, or when Trump gets in there, we'll talk about this and try to have a peaceful resolution. That's the big crime that Flynn committed. That's what needed investigated. Now, when they talked to Flynn, they asked him 3 times, did you talk about sanctions? And basically, he's like, nah, I don't remember, blah, blah, blah. And finally, at the end, he says, I don't remember, I could have. That's what they're saying's a lie. Now, they didn't record this, by the way. The FBI didn't record, you would assume, 2016, they'd have one of these, but they didn't record. Instead, they did what was called a 302. One of the investigators that they used the written word of was Peter Strzok, the guy who wanted an insurance policy against Trump. And even their own 302 shows Flynn saying, I don't remember, I could have talked about that. And that's what they charged him for lying, for saying, I don't recall. By the way, how many times did Hillary Clinton say, I don't recall in the Benghazi investigation?
He said he didn't. He didn't just say he didn't recall.
Want to bet?
I didn't do so.
Want to bet?
But he did.
Okay.
The fact that he did it when he said he doesn't recall, and there was recordings of him doing so.
So if he said, I don't recall, but he did it, then that's a lie.
He said, I may have, I don't recall.
Right.
And that's a lie.
No. How do you know that that's a lie?
Because he was caught doing so.
Okay, so everything you've done, you remember.
Not everything, but in regards to specific things, yeah, I would say I would know whether I did something or not.
Did you have steak for dinner last week?
No.
How about a month ago?
No.
Or are you vegetarian?
No.
Okay, did you have chicken a month ago?
Absolutely.
Okay, did you have chicken last week?
Yes.
What'd you have for dinner yesterday?
Ramen.
What'd you have?
Pork.
Send this guy some fucking donuts. Ramen? I actually like ramen. What'd you have for dinner last Wednesday?
Last Wednesday, I had pizza.
What'd you have 2 Wednesdays ago?
2 Wednesdays ago, I had Del Taco burritos.
I don't believe that you remember this. What'd you have 5
I definitely remember this. I map out all my meals.
Okay. Well, then what'd you watch on television 7 Wednesdays ago?
Ooh, that's tough. 7 Wednesdays ago. Some really trash anime. I couldn't tell you which ones.
That's not true. We have you on video watching Demon Slayer. So you're lying.
That's a trash anime, so it would be true.
Yeah, so you lied. You said you didn't know, and you did. You see how stupid this is? You mean a dude that's now being promoted to one of the biggest positions in his life, being the national security advisor, who's probably making dozens upon dozens of calls, didn't remember the specific details of one call and said, I don't remember, that could have happened, and that's a lie? That's your claim, that's a lie.
Because he knows he did, because he spoke secretly with this individual specifically about sanctions.
That's not, do you think that Hillary, when she kept saying, I don't recall, lied?
I don't know.
She probably did. How would you prove whether or not someone recalls?
By showing some itinerary, by showing some intent, by showing what was actually
an itinerary
done.
Wouldn't matter. I don't recall what I talked to my secretary about 4 weeks ago. We have an itinerary that says you talked to her. I don't recall. Paul, we just got done talking. Paul Combetta Russia says he didn't recall what he talked about with Cheryl Mills 2 days before. That's a lie, clearly, right? We have the itinerary. He met with her. So clearly he recalls, right? So why didn't they charge him for lying?
If it can be proven that it was a lie and she knows, like,
how could
that
you
she was
prove
doing
that someone
some
doesn't
dealing,
recall?
some sort of recording, some sort of evidence, some
That's
sort of
still not
documentation.
proof. Like, that's
Well,
why
we got
attorneys
that
tell you
proof.
when you answer to say, I don't recall, because it's almost impossible, unless they have you on recording being like, of course I recalled, I just lied to them. It's almost impossible to know what someone remembers. But with Flynn, they didn't give a shit. He's the only one. Everyone else, all through Washington, constantly subpoenaed. I don't recall. But with Flynn, they're like, bullshit. You recalled, we're charging you. And what's the serious crime that we need to charge you with? You asked your counterpart in Russia not to sanction us.
So here's where we're at. Flynn lied when he said he did not ask Western ambassador to hold off on retaliating for U.S. sanctions. He said he did not do so.
It's not
He didn't
true.
say
He
he
said,
didn't recall.
So now you're changing it.
I'm just reading what's going on. Like, I want to see, like, did he say I didn't recall? Did he say I don't think I did? Or did he say he did not? And in this case, he's saying he did not.
Okay, let's see. I have the 302.
And he pled guilty.
We already talked about the pleading guilty. So let's see.
And he also denied asking the ambassador to delay a UN vote on Israeli settlements, but I don't really care.
The interviewing agents asked Flynn, this is from the official FBI 302 of Michael Flynn. The interviewing agents asked Flynn if he recalled any conversation with Kislyak in which the expulsions were discussed, where Flynn might have encouraged Kislyak to not escalate the situation, to keep the Russian reciprocal, or to not engage from tit to tat. Flynn responded, not really, I don't remember. It wasn't don't do anything. Flynn did not know about persona non grata. Then we skipped some. The interviewing agent asked Flynn
So
if
not really is I don't recall. It's like, we might have talked about some of that. We didn't really talk about that.
Right. That's saying I don't remember. I don't really remember what it was. Then they ask him again. Listen, the interviewing agents asked Flynn if he recalled any conversation with Kislyak, which Kislyak told the government of Russia take into account the administration's position on expulsion, or with Kislyak said Russia responded or chose to moderate. Flynn stated it was possible he talked to Kislyak on the issue, but if he did not remember doing so. So he said, maybe I did, but I don't remember.
And
you want me to link that to speak so you can see?
You can, but all the same, this sounds like he was obfuscating what he actually did when they had wiretaps.
That's your opinion.
So they asked him a question they already knew the answer to.
Right, and he said, I could have done that, I don't recall. And they're like, that's a lie, you did recall. That's a joke. They would not do that to anyone else. Yes, the same people talking about an insurance policy against Donald Trump decided that they were going to aggressively go after Flynn. James Comey, who laughed that they basically went against all norms to get him because, the fool trusted us. Yep, that's what happened. Yes, this is further proof of the weaponization of law enforcement, of the Democratic apparatus working with the FBI to go after the Trump's team in a litany of ways. Again, I'll repeat. I'll leave the audience judge for themselves. Here's the question. Did Flynn recall a conversation with Kislyak where he told Kislyak the government of Russia had taken into account incoming administration's possible position on expulsion, or where Kislyak said the government of Russia responded or chosen to modulate their response in any ways to the U.S. action as a result of the request by the incoming administration? Quote, Flynn stated it was possible he talked to Kislyak on the issue, but if he did not remember doing so. And that's the lie. I'll leave it up to the audience to decide. Every time they've heard a government official testify, thousands of times, I don't recall, and never be charged for a lie. But Flynn, they decided to. And what was the underlying grievous charge? The crime that he committed? Ask Russia to not sanction the United States. Amazing.